Get ready for fireworks as we celebrate Independence Day here in the US with Alex Zap's inspiring story. If you don't know, Alex is a visionary whose journey reads like a real life adventure novel. He grew up in the harsh climates of Siberia, served in the Israeli Defense Forces, and eventually made his way to the US, where his dreams really took flight. With the 4th of July coming around here in the US, I thought it would make for a great topic to celebrate American innovation in test automation. So get those sparklers out and welcome back to the show, Alex Zap, the mastermind behind ZAPTest. Hey, before we get into it, if you're looking to streamline your testing process, why not give ZAPTest a try? They're offering an enterprise version of their full-featured application, a no-risk 6-month proof of concept, completely free of cost. Just visit testskill.me/Zap trial to download your trial today. Elevate your testing with zero commitment. Check it out and listen up to hear not only an inspiring story, but all the reasons why this offer is a no-brainer. Check it out. Hey, Alex, welcome back to the Guilds.
Excellent. Thank you, Joe. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here today.
Absolutely. And you actually look like an action hero, so this is really fitting. So good to have you back. So I guess before we get into Alex, maybe a little background with you, just start off telling us a little bit more about yourself, and then we'll dive in a little deeper.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, I was born and raised in Soviet Union in the Ukrainian Jewish family, and part of my dad's family, the distant family, were a Jewish dissident that immigrated in the 70s to the United States. And my dad was an oil executive, and he decided at that time to different alternative path, and he went to Siberia to help Soviet to develop oil. So, but my childhood was, I felt for most of the part as an American kid that left behind. I knew that I was supposed to go to school somewhere in Brooklyn, and instead I was walking on the streets in Siberia there in the brutal cold in the Soviet Union, the authoritative environment, It wasn't fun, but it was very tough childhood with basically with people that were suffering the same. And when I had a chance all by myself when I was 18, I left Soviet Union. I had a window of opportunity and I took it. And that's basically how my childhood started.
So, Alex, I'm just curious to know, when you left Soviet Union, I assume was in the 80s or the 70s, was it hard to get out? I don't want to get political here, but I know it was a different environment back then. Like, what was that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was pure Soviet Union as it was portrayed pretty much in our American movies back then. It was an Iron Curtain. It was like a civilized concentration camp for people to live. It was very poor and very tough for everyone. I mean, the reason why I had an opportunity to move out, it's in the late 80s, Gorbachev, when they started Perestroika, they opened the gate for a few group of people, Jews basically, the Soviet Jews, to go to Israel, and Germans also were able, Germans that had been captured during the World War II, and the families that were developing in the Soviet Union environment as prisoners, they were able to join their families in Germany. So it was very, very challenging decision for me. I mean, I was a kid that didn't speak any language but Russian. And back then, imagine, you probably remember those days, we're about the same age, I think. There weren't internet. My kids think of this era as a Lord of the Rings, sort of. Yeah, but there were days when we didn't have internet. All we had is just letters, the paper letters that people write with the cursive and send it in the mail. And the trick was you don't know if it's going to reach you or not, especially in Soviet Union. Anything could happen, right? And we had no information about how it is on the other side. I guess it's a just conversation for a different show. You and I were going to do a show about it. Yeah, I'll tell you more. Right. But that's how I was able to live. And I went to, my first stop was in Israel.
So why the Israeli Defense Force? I know I'm kind of ignorant. I assume that everyone when they're 18 needs to join the Israeli army. I don't know if that's true or not. Is this part of what you had to do to become a citizen of Israel, or to go to Israel, or is that something you did voluntarily?
I did voluntarily. I mean, I was a judoka. I mean, I was a skinny Jewish kid that played piano and dance and act, and everybody were taking advantage of me in my class. So I decided to change my destiny, and I started to play judo. And I became, I used to fight a lot. I was like advanced at that time. By 18, I was pretty advanced martial artist. And as far as a teenager can be, right? So, but anyway, when I came by myself, I didn't have parents. So they told me you have two choices. You can go to yeshiva, to a religious school, or you can go join army. I said, of course, army. I mean, if I'm going to join army, I've been raised being a A+ achiever, sort of. And I said, if I'm going to do army, it's going to be combat forces. It's going to be special forces only. So, and I was preparing myself before army. I was getting the condition, and I went through the survival test and what's not. And I discharged as an honor soldier. And that's actually how why I live in the United States, because when I discharged, IDF gave me different choices, what I want to do after discharge. And I said, I have a distant family in the United States. That was my childhood dream, to join them. I want to go to the United States. So IDF asked U.S. consulate to give me entry visa, and Americans gave me a lifetime visa. So I'm an American citizen because I was a good soldier in Israeli Defense Force.
That's awesome. How long were you in the force for?
3 years. I mean, just regular. But this was very interesting. I mean, I love IDF. I can talk again. I can talk about it for hours. But I can tell you one thing: for whatever is going on in the world, IDF, it's an army that made by parents for their kids. If you have kids and you would think of the army, this is the army that IDF is. And this is what it took away for 30 years since.
Wow, very nice. So why come to the U.S. then? Seemed like you were like doing well in Israel. IDF seems like it's perfect for you. Like why leave and go to the U.S. at that point?
Well, that was my childhood dream. I mean, I felt I was raised in thinking of myself as an American kid, and I didn't see myself living anywhere but in the United States.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you come to the U.S. and then what happens? Like I'm always fascinated how you got into tech. Then, did you learn anything from the IDF that like, maybe technology is the way to go, or like how, like did you learn any lessons from being in the defense force that you brought over to the U.S. that you then applied to business that made you go in the direction you went in?
Well, first of all, IDF gave me great lessons of Western culture. Imagine I've been growing up in the East, in the pro-communist, like authoritative regime, where there wasn't a fair game. It's you could not based on there's no such a definition as a fair game. I mean, everything was corrupted. You have to be knowing someone that brings someone somewhere, a lot of bribery about this and this. You have to be somewhere to be somewhere. I mean, I don't know, it sounds gibberish. But bottom line, in IDF, I learned that in order for you to be a leader, you have to be an advanced soldier. There's no any other way. You cannot become an officer living in the outside of the trenches to lead people in the life-threatening missions. And that gave me a great charge for the rest of my life. So I always in my career, I'm looking at myself as an advanced soldier of my business. I have to lead my engineers by being an advanced engineer. Make sense? So that's the greatest lesson of my life.
That is a great lesson for sure. So what led you then to build ZAPTest? Because I've known you, you haven't known me, or I've known of you for years and years and years. I've seen you like back in the day. I think at Mercury, they used to have conferences and they'd have vendors there. And I could have sworn you were there in the early times. You had big parties. So what made you start ZAPTest so early then? Absolutely.
Great question. So I was in sales first. I was selling consumer electronics at the beginning. But I was thinking of myself as more than that. I wanted to do something corporate oriented. My parents were corporate executives in the Soviet Union, and I grew up in the family and all the surroundings of the leaders that make decision makers, kind of corporate people. And I've seen myself in this environment. But I have, you see, I play piano and I speak I can communicate in 5 languages by now. But I have this phonetic disabling, I have a thick accent. It doesn't matter how long I'm going to live in the, I still have a thick Russian accent. And in early days in the sales, I wanted to go to corporate sales first. I wanted to be technical recruiter in Miami. Nobody was hiring me. I was going to interviews, nobody hiring me. And one manager came out. He was Cuban. He said, listen, I feel sentimental to you. We grew up in the similar environments. Nobody going to hire you. It's hard to understand you on the phone. If you want to get into technology, become an engineer. And there was one, the mentor in my life that gave me good advice. He said, listen, it was mid-90s. He said, quality assurance industry rising because everybody's starting to be afraid of bug 2000. They're hiring a lot of test engineers. You might have an opportunity to get in. And this is how I started. But I was looking at it as a business. I wanted to create a business out of it. And I wanted to add value more than just manual testing. And I was starting researching vendors on the market who does test automation, and I came across Mercury Interactive. I started to do research of the leadership, and I found that some leading managers I served an army with, and I knew that. So I contacted them, and I started to find out. They said, okay, welcome back. Here's a white paper on Windrunner. Become the certified, and if you qualify, we're going to sign you up as an independent consultant partner, and we're going to give you opportunities to deliver services. And this is how it all started. But with that, I wanted to, I have this thing, I like to push the normal into new normal. And I always finding the alternative approaches to the same thing, right? So I looked at the consulting, and I incorporated special ops principles that I learned in Army in Israel to the software consulting. Back then, if you remember those days, we used to be called the road warriors. Every Monday and Friday, you see a number of lines in the airports of the corporate dressed professional lining up to fly either to customer or from customer, to side or from side. Yeah, we're going on the customer side, and this is how we used to live. And I designed a delivery process where people could deploy faster, deliver more services in a multitasking way, and it started to work out. But another thing that I also came up with back then, it was a rise of the web technologies, right? So late 90s, beginning of 2000s. And on the market at that time, Mercury and Rational were 2 main vendors that were rivals for market leadership. So I said, guys, you know what? I'm willing to fly to Israel, to sit down with engineers in the lab. And so we'll remember, beginning of 2000s, it was a second Intifada in Israel where bad guys were blowing buses on the streets and killing a lot of people, so it wasn't safe at all. And I said, you know what, I don't afraid. I mean, I'm an Israeli soldier. I'll go. And I used to fly and work out with engineers in the lab, get the early alpha versions, come back to the customers in the States, and try to implement in these functionalities in the process. I'm a big process guy. My forte was 2 things in the consulting that I love the most. It's train classes to teach people how to do automation. For me, it's more like a performance art, right? And also design the processes for big corporation, like a factory, automation factories. And to complement the process, you need to have certain functionality that fits in the process, not just blindly we designed it to think that it's going to complement it, right? So it was case applicable. So I used to deliver services to find out from the customer the first hand what the challenges may be, communicated to R&D in Israel, and sometimes some functionalities they were proud to say were building with my feedback. And so this is how we built the first wave of Zap. We were advanced consulting for. They used to call us Mercury SWAT team. So every challenging technology, any new things that's happen. Sometimes I used to fly to the customer and have a new technology that nobody even implemented yet, and just read the white paper user guide to get myself ready for kickoff meeting. Something like that. We had a very interesting times back then.
That
This is
sounds
how it
awesome.
started.
Yeah, I miss Mercury. So what are those special ops principles? Do you have like a framework, or is it just in general what you've learned and you?
First of all, it's the people. Any special ops keen on the people. If you have people with solid skills, good work ethic and determination, and ability to multitask, and most important, be adaptable to any situation. And this is the most important thing. I've been carefully selecting my team members, but I have people that work with me for 20 years. I always say I treat the family as a business and business as a family. So I have people today work for me out of Ukraine, for example. And every time I watch and hear of the airstrike, I text them right away saying, how you doing? Are you safe? We had a mess in Israel in October, and I had Israeli crew that I helped them to move out of Moshavs that were being attacked remotely. And we situate them in different corners for Israel, and so far and so on. Makes sense? I'm very much involved in my team. So I have people working for me from all over the world. I got people in Nigeria, in Ethiopia, in Armenia, in Georgia, in Israel, in Turkey, you name it. Of course, America, we're an American company. Right. So those are the main principles. And of course, always self-education. It's a constant race. With mastering web, we move into mobile. We master mobile, we move into AI. We're always moving. We always reinvent ourselves. Yep.
I love it. Great principles to live by for sure. So how then did it help you to build ZAPTest? I know. So you were consulting, you started to learn more and more. Did you then build your own technology? Were you build on top of Mercury, or then you pulled away? Like where did ZAPTest, the product itself, come into play?
Great question. So in 2006, if you remember, HP started HP Software as a software division, being a hardware company. And the first acquisition of the company that I did, it was Mercury Interactive. It was one of the largest Israeli company acquisitions back then. They paid like $4 or $5 billion for that. But with that, Mercury had as a company, had a policy of the small group consultants. So like myself, that's why I've been given the opportunity to build a company around myself. They were assigning, you had to be 2 people company, at least, both certified. And that's when they start giving you engagement. So Mercury had an ecosystem of maybe over 100 partners like that. We were the only partner that Mercury had that didn't carry the sales quota, because we had a different specialty. My add value to the company was my advanced delivery, my advanced models that complemented their PSO. So this is why they never pressured me or put any sales quota to resell their software. I didn't know how. I didn't have a sales quota. And when the HP acquired Mercury, they said, we're giving you limit. I remember probably 10 companies or so. Take the biggest vendors, like at that time, Oracle and others, if you remember, that were big resellers of Mercury products. And we're both Atlanta-based, so this is why I remember names. So Mercury turned out to them and said, guys, you know what? We have one extra partner that we want to strongly ask you to take. Because they, in the gray area, they're not typical, don't follow the rules pretty much. They're a shadow team. And I flew to Texas to meet up with HP executives to represent my case and what add value we're going to bring to them. And they really like it. They said, listen, that's a crazy but very interesting idea. You in. And they got us in. But with that, they said, you have to carry the quota now. So I said, you know what? I never done it, but I used to be in sales in the past, so I'll take a challenge. We dusted off our SOWs that we had through the services. I called around all the managers that I met and my team delivered services to. I said, guys, we're HP partners now. We carry the quota. So please, if you're going to do a renewal of Mercury software, do it through us. All right? But in order for you to do that, we want to do extra token for you. So as a process architect, I've seen the gap on the market, what tools can deliver. At that time, if you remember, Adobe started to bring up the Flex and Flash. They were web technologies that were positioned as an ActiveX. So Adobe I don't know if now we walked away from that technology, but back then they didn't offer open APIs to anyone. So you could not build any integration. Exactly. So if everybody using DOM-based object recognition, and object recognition, it's a key and the core functionality of any UI automation technology. If you don't recognize object, your framework going to chuck somewhere and your execution will be worthless. So in order to assure flawless execution, we have to be very creative how we're going to present it to the customers. So I started to work on a new generation algorithm for object recognition. I said, you know what, we have to do new normal. We have to build a Spider-Man that can fly across the screens and recognize objects. So, and this is how we came up with the Zap Fix. It was add-in developed for QuickTest Pro that was given alternative recognition engine to QTP, which allows you to switch from the built-in DOM-based object to Zap Fix, that's OCR / back then, what it is, it's a computer vision technology. Back then, we didn't know that it's called computer vision. It was very early. It's only later computer vision started to determine itself to be used, right? So this was a computer vision technology, one of the first of the kind. And I used to call customers and say, listen, if you buy QuickTest Pro through me, I'll give you this magic add-in for free that you can use with QuickTest Pro. And that's how we started to build a resale business. And we see the success. In 2011 in Vienna, I remember we were at the partner conference and I presented a step out at the conference, had a full presentation slot announcing Zap as a software. Back then it was Zap Technology software. So we switched the cliche from being the services company into the full product company. Yeah. So this is how Zap started, and we started to call it ZAPTest, I believe around 2014 or something like that. We started to rebrand.
So it's now completely separate from HP. It's not HP anymore. It's Microfocus. No, it's not Microfocus. It is OneText, I think. So it's now a complete separate product by itself.
But for many years, we disengaged completely from the relationship with HP around 2014 when we started to call it ZAPTest. We rebranded to ZAPTest.
Right. So you've been all around for a bit. You really know your stuff. If someone wanted to check out ZAPTest, I think I looked at your website. You're even you're always doing something new. You're trying to think outside of the box. I think you have some sort of like new. I think it's like an onboarding initiative. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? I think it's like a 6-month offering.
Absolutely. Yeah, so in the quick, what we do, we offer in market ability to do proof of concept for 6 months at no cost. Basically, in the simple terms, you start contract with ZAPTest, and for the first 6 months, you have rights to walk away from the contract without paying us anything. This is how confident we are in our software and the overall solution that between the software and the process that we applied, we can fit in whatever you have. Like if you look at the software the way it is today, we managed to design the hybrid software that allows you to automate any UI agnostic to technology of this UI. So meaning the same framework can apply seamlessly to mobile application, to mainframe application, to SAP or web. No difference at all. Make sense? We're giving you flexibility to execute one script across multiple platforms at once. So saves you a lot of time for regression testing and time to market. We're giving you opportunity for any manager. One of the main challenges is how to adapt new technology to deliver the goals with the personnel that they have. Because a team is an asset. Every manager builds a team around themselves or the company, hiring people, evaluating people, onboarding them, feeding them into the process. It's a whole process, and they became part of your team like a family. So you don't want to get rid of anyone, but you have a limited budget. So how would you fit it in, right? Plus, our software allows you to script in many different ways. You don't need to be a professional automator. We offer JavaScript scripting approach, or even VB script if you'd like. But the JavaScript serves very well. A lot of people familiar with that, especially the ex-Selenium guys. Right. We're offering you low code. So if you understand the logic and you want to construct it but don't do any scripting, you can use icon-driven tree view, what's not, right? And we also have a Copilot for over a year now. As OpenAI started to release the API, so we adapted and we use a generative AI to drive through natural language, so entire automation. Today, any novice intern that comes to your company can learn a concept of testing and test automation through Zap Copilot. So you basically can prompt it, give me an overview of functional testing. And it's going to give you a detailed overview, like ChatGPT, but trained on the ZAPTest, trained on the testing, and it gives you more precise, direct answers. So it can guide you through conceptual understanding of testing, through precise writing the code per script per particular object calibration and what's not. So everything.
Is that part of the 6-month POC?
Everything, yeah. So as you start the 6 months with us, we're giving you full enterprise version, unlimited. I just want to review what we offer in general. So the software able to complement any process. Another challenge of you as a QA manager, it's how you, some QA teams support multiple projects. Some projects waterfall, some projects is agile, right? And they the diverse schedule delivery. So with us, you can do either or. You can be very agile. You can automate on the mockups. We're the only one on the market that allows you to automate on the pure picture. You can have a hand drawing, scan it with ZAPTest scanner, it parses on the objects, and you can construct script based on your logic, based on the use case, and create the script. And then you can generate test documentation for backup purposes. You can complement the collaboration of multiple teams. A lot of customers schedule and set up where you have subject matter expert that knows what needs to be automated. And you may have automators or maybe vendors that they hire for automation that position in a different country, different time zone, scattered around, right? Or maybe they have a security restriction for vendors to use access of the software. So in this case, we're offering companies video scenario recording technology. It's a desktop recorder within the ZAPTest. We have a Rec Studio that allows you, subject matter expert, just to record a video of the manual procedure of the test case scenario, right? And pass it on to Automator. Automator in their own time can watch the video. You can also leave narration, audio narration to it as a movie. And they can parse this video into the objects and construct the script without even touching live application based on the video. Make sense? So it complements whatever the delivery schedule you have. You want to be as agile, you want to be as waterfall, you can fit and meet any skill set together. And most importantly, you can automate anything. Now, even on the automation side, if I'll dive into technicalities, on the UI side, you have a multiple option. You can automate using Zoe. It's our Zap object engine. This is the computer vision plus AI. We have AI injected not just in the Copilot, we also have AI injected in object recognition. In the cases where you need to do more advanced object recognition, you can calibrate it with the AI properties. Make sense? And you can incorporate WebDriver. We designed the WebDriver with object repository. WebDriver never had an object repository, not that I knew, on the market. And this was a big problem because for years, Selenium frameworks were very linear, very procedural. Makes sense? Takes a lot of time to build and customize. I mean, guys were creative with different component-based architectures around that. And we merged our WebDriver into the shared object repository with our Zoe. So you can have a dual application. If, for example, either you're moving from WebDriver to Zap, from Selenium to ZAPTest, or you incorporate in the hybrid model, because you may end up ZAPTest to do a number of projects, but you have projects that have been already automated with Selenium. You don't want to retire them, right? So you can merge it. So that's a beauty. And on the top of everything, even if that's not enough, you can use API automation. either as a standalone in the studio, because we're giving you unlimited licenses. So at the very beginning, you developers can start using ZAPTest for unit testing using the API studios, integrated, collaborating with the functional test automation on the UI side, right? And even the functional testers can mix UI and API step in the same script to expedite or maybe improve validation between the user and the system. Make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I can tell even more. It's not it. on the top of everything, you can reuse API script for load testing. We got the load studio. So you don't need to rescript anything. I'm a process guy. I build technology that complements the process, and I'm sales guy. So I'm positioning in the way that I'm not leaving any room for rejection. If you have intention to automate, even if you don't have budget right away, we can work.
Yeah, and that 6-month POC is game changer, because a lot of people I talk to, like they work with a company for a few weeks, they get it working on a toy app, and then they buy it, and they're like, all right, see you later, and they're stuck with this expensive tool. This is crazy. Full enterprise, all the features you just talked about are part of the 6-month POC.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I believe in the sustainable business. I mean, I grew up in the blue chip corporate environment. Imagine, I was late 20s. I didn't know American life. I didn't know culture much, and nothing about the corporate environment. I didn't go to school here, right? So even the writing emails, I learned from my American mentors. I've been lucky to be under the wing of the very solid American corporate executives that were teaching me everything. I even became an NFL fan, football fan, artificially. I mean, I'm one of the few first-generation immigrants that love American football as much as I love it. And because I was infusing myself into the American culture altogether, right? So based on this practice, I believe in the long-term relationship with my customers. I have customers that have been with me for 20 years, for all my Zap life being as a company. And to support people, and they partner, they put their name next to mine. They became from being just managers to the directors of QA, directors of development, and the global leaders, with us supporting all the initiatives and being there when we had to be, and always innovating, always delivering, you know. And for that, we confident enough to offer that much flexibility to our prospects to make a weighted decision that they're comfortable with us. Because any automation, it's a long-term game. If you started, especially UI automation, you better continue it. Otherwise, you wasted your investment. Make sense? And you want to partner with the vendor that A, has very advanced technology, but B, also very reliable. That's not going to go out of business tomorrow. They're not going to get acquired by the investor that will go south. Something going to go wrong, right? We proved our record. We proved ourselves. You've seen me around for 25 years. You know, I'm always there. And this is why I personally supervise every opportunity that comes to Zap to make sure that we're giving 120% to our customers. You snooze, you lose, right? So I feel it more than maybe any other American executive because I'm a hybrid American, right, if you will. And for me, the sense of presenting myself to my employees, to foreign prospects that come and approaching us, I always saying everyone, guys, despite my accent, we're an American company. And the certain things based on our ethics as American nation, on the corporate and the national ethics, we don't do. Like we don't give you one price and give someone else another price or something like that. We have one price. We understand. We made the market research. We understand what market needs. We understand what we're giving you for that, and we're standing to that. So, bottom line, I'm trying to keep American flag high and strong. This is why 4th of July. This is why this date is very special for me personally.
I love it. I come from a family of immigrants. My grandparents, a lot of my friends' families are from Italy as well. And they seem to be more patriotic than people that just grew up here. So could this have happened anywhere else other than the US? A lot of times people go, US is bad, but it sounds like it's been very good to what you believe in and how it's helped your company.
I won't stop speaking enough about our country, and only in the United States, corporate underdog like me could make it all by myself, all by my chutzpah and my smarts, and the people that supports me, and the people that I was treating as an American executive, even though they were living in different zip codes, different countries, and they work remotely. Make sense? But because I always religiously follow the rules of being the due diligence, being responsible and responsive, and always set expectation and meet expectation that I set. I shave every morning for my employees mostly. So every morning they come at a certain time, we have a scheduled meeting, and they see me as a leader being always on my full gear. I'm ready to execute.
Love it. All right, Alex, once again, I could talk to you forever. This is really a perfect story for the 4th of July and for, the independence of automation and all these things. So thank you so much for sharing your journey. It's really cool stuff. Before we go, though, is there one piece of actionable advice you want to share with the Guild before we go?
I want all us and American leaders remember that everybody in the world looking up to us because we're a leading nation indeed. And we're responsible for keeping our American flag strong and always set an example. And this is my motto in life. I'm an American engineer and American executive. God bless America. Happy 4th.
Thanks again for your automation awesomeness. For links to everything of value we covered in this episode, head on over to testguild.com/A503. And if the show has helped you in any way, why not rate it and review it in iTunes? Reviews really help in the rankings of the show, and I read each and every one of them. So that's it for this episode of the Test Guild Automation Podcast. I'm Joe, and my mission is to help you succeed with creating end-to-end, full-stack automation awesomeness. As always, test everything and keep the good. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the Test Guild Automation Podcast. Head on over to testguild.com for full show notes, amazing blog articles, and online testing conferences. Don't forget to subscribe to the Guild to continue your testing journey.